October 23rd here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with North Korea's military support for Russia. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, North Korea is preparing 2 military brigades of 6,000 soldiers each to support Russia. He says the North is backing Russia's policy because of money. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli leaders as part of Washington's latest push for a ceasefire in Gaza, while Israel confirmed it killed potential Hezbollah successor Hashim Safiaddin in an airstrike 3 weeks ago. The International Monetary Fund expects South Korea's economy to grow 2.5% this year and 2.2% next year, the same as its forecast in July. The world economy is expected to expand by 3.2% by the end of the year. North Korea is preparing 2 brigades of 6,000 soldiers each, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says, while the U.S. claims it's still analyzing reports of a North Korean troop deployment to Russia. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says military intelligence has information pointing to North Korea forming 2 brigades of North Korean soldiers, with each unit consisting of 6,000 troops. The Ukrainian leader added that while the troop deployment poses a challenge for Ukraine, its military knows how to respond to it, stressing that it's crucial that its allies do not shy away from the recent developments. Zelenskyy went on to express his gratitude to all the countries that have condemned Pyongyang for its military support for Russia, emphasizing that the world is interested in ending the war and not prolonging it. He further called on the international community to stop Russia and who he called its accomplices. Meanwhile, Washington says the process is still underway to verify reports of North Korea's deployment of troops. According to the U.S. State Department's deputy spokesperson, Vedant Patel, the U.S. has its own processes in place and its own assessments that it needs to make before making any public comments. He stressed that the lack of confirmation on Seoul's intel regarding the North Korean troop deployment is not a reflection of its lack of confidence. When asked if any discussions are taking place over what measures would be taken in response to Pyongyang's troop deployment, Patel did not comment. However, the spokesperson stressed that if the reports are true, the regime's troop support for Russia would be incredibly dangerous. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And the South Korean government has avowed an action plan based on the scale of North Korean support of Russia's war efforts, which could include considering supplying weapons to Ukraine. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
A quote, military collusion is what the presidential office called North Korea's deployment of troops to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine while calling for an immediate halt and the retrieval of forces. This came on Tuesday as the National Security Council held a standing committee meeting to discuss potential responses.
The government will implement phased response measures according to the progress of military cooperation between Russia and North Korea following North Korea's dispatch of combat troops. In this process, we will closely coordinate with our allies and friendly nations to ensure that strong and effective measures are taken against the Russia-North Korea military cooperation.
While the top office opted not to specify what the responses would be, as revealing them could impact future cooperation between Russia and North Korea, an official told reporters that responses could be through diplomacy, economic retaliations, or even military action. The official also said weapons supply could be an option. So far, non-lethal weapons have been supplied to Ukraine by South Korea, but the government will reconsider. It will first consider supplying defensive weapons, but if the situation escalates further, it will consider offensive weapons. The top office also called out North Korea for neglecting its own people, calling it a criminal organization.
Meanwhile, attendees of the meeting pointed out that the North Korean regime, which has completely ignored the livelihoods and human rights of its people while focusing solely on nuclear missile development, is now driving young North Koreans into a senseless war of mercenaries for Russia. This, we noted, is an act of admitting that the regime is a criminal organization.
In the meantime, South Korea is the only country to confirm North Korea's deployment of troops for Russia, other than Ukraine, with President Volodymyr Zelenskyy saying so himself. A top office official says that the intel was a result of gathering and sharing with the nation's allies and friendly nations like the U.S. and Ukraine over an extended period of time. Therefore, the current stance taken by the U.S., who has much to consider before confirming this, is unrelated to the objectivity of the intelligence. In fact, confirmation should follow soon. In addition, the official said that it's not clear how the deployment will impact the front lines in Ukraine, as there are many factors that will play into it. And South Korea currently is diplomatically calling for the retrieval of troops before it gets to the front lines and to stop the cooperation at this stage. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, will Pyongyang listen to and comply with Seoul's diplomatic call for it to call back its troops? If not, what next? For more, we're joined by Professor Joel Atkinson. Good to have you back, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
So the South Korean government urging North Korea to immediately withdraw its troops from Russia. The question is, will the regime listen?
Well, I think the chances of them listening are probably close to zero. Assuming the media reports are accurate, this deployment is the result of a long, complicated, and very expensive process. So neither Moscow nor Pyongyang would have begun unless they plan to see it through. So I don't think there's much Seoul can say or do in the short term that will change that.
Then what could be the next step for South Korea to take when North actually decides to keep its soldiers in Russia, or even, decides to bring more in to Russia?
Well, we've already seen step one, which is calling in the Russian ambassador, publicizing communication with partners, coordinating condemnations and issuing warnings. So the next step, I guess, would be to send officials to Europe and likely even Ukraine for discussions.
Well, the presidential office said that it could also consider supplying weapons to Ukraine. Now, what does this really mean? I mean, how seriously is South Korea taking the situation at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think Seoul takes this very seriously. North Korea is providing something very valuable to Russia, 12,000 disciplined troops at a time when Putin wants to do anything to avoid mobilizing Russian conscripts. So obviously, North Korea will almost certainly be receiving something of comparable value in return. So that would include cash and nuclear and missile-related technology, all of which are UN Security Council sanctioned violations and a direct threat to South Korean security. And so we have anonymous officials telling journalists that Seoul will escalate up a ladder of options if the deployment continues, starting with non-lethal aid, then perhaps ratcheting up to defensive weapons and even offensive weapons. However, I'm actually pretty skeptical that will happen. To start with, Seoul has shown it doesn't want to make Moscow too angry.
Right.
And also, let's face it, weapons are expensive, and it probably doesn't make sense for South Korea to be taking on a substantial burden of arming Ukraine precisely at a time when this deployment is making North Korea even more of a threat.
Right, it is going to be definitely a hard decision to make for South Korea as well. Now, Seoul and NATO are also following the speculation very closely. Now, they are going to do so, continue to do so through intel sharing. What kind of intel sharing? I mean, what kind of tighter cooperation can we expect from the two sides?
Yeah, so I think this is an area where there really will be a lot of cooperation. I expect Seoul is in the process of dispatching intelligence officers and even military personnel to liaise with the Ukrainians and to share information about what the North Koreans are likely to do and what they are doing in terms of their operations and battlefield tactics. And, South Korean officials could even participate in the interrogation of North Korean prisoners or in psychological warfare operations to encourage them to defect or surrender. They could help translate what the North Koreans are saying in their battlefield communications and so on.
Well, like my colleague Kim Do-yeon just reported, the U.S. says South Korea is the only country to confirm this speculation, and the U.S. is still assessing this speculation. Why is it taking this much time to do so for Washington?
Yes, the NATO Secretary General said that the official position is that they cannot confirm the reports, but that that might change. So we have Ukraine saying it, and we have the South Korean government saying it, and more evidence of North Korean soldiers in Russia showing up on social media, but the US and Europe still not confirming it. Why they haven't is an interesting question. There was an Estonian member of the European Parliament saying it was basically an excuse, so they didn't have to do anything. That could be part of it. But there's also a psychological aspect to this, affecting perceptions of how the war may unfold for Ukraine, or even as pressure for what the US and others to get more involved than they want to. And, it could also be they want to leave the door open to dialogue with North Korea or Russia, give them room to walk this back. And it may never be officially confirmed. But I expect the Yoon administration is now asking them to hurry up and confirm it. So we'll just have to wait and see if that happens.
Well, Professor Atkinson, then what kind of reaction can we expect from the U.S. other than, calling it a grave concern?
Well, I think it's hard to really see what more the U.S. could do in Ukraine politically. So I expect it's going to be South Korea really leading efforts to try to encourage a greater response from the US. I think that probably the action will be in Europe, because they themselves are the one who are experiencing or who face this direct problem from North Korea's contribution to Ukraine.
Right.
So I think that's where the action will be, where if Europe is willing to really step up their support for Ukraine in response to this deployment.
Alrighty, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your insight.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
And the South Korean government, a military, is remaining vigilant with an annual large-scale drill taking place involving a combined river crossing exercise with the U.S. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung has this report.
After the smoke screen is set up, K-21 armored vehicles cross the river one by one. This is the part of Korea and the United States combined river crossing exercise as part of the annual large-scale military Hoguk drill. The exercise began its 3-week run since on Sunday, aiming to enhance the combat capabilities and joint forces interoperability against North Korea's threats. Considering the geographical features of having lots of streams and rivers on the peninsula, river crossings are essential. And thus, as part of large-scale field training exercise, 1,000 soldiers from battalions of ROK Army's 7th Maneuver Corps, along with the 2nd Infantry Division ROK U.S. Combined Forces, took part in combined wet gap crossing training exercises.
A contested wet gap crossing is one of the hardest operations to execute in land warfare. To execute it together, as we did, with our same soldiers sharing our equipment, to span the gap that neither of us could span on our own, is an outstanding demonstration of the strength and commitment of the ROK-US alliance.
One notable amphibious bridging vehicle that has been self-produced by Korea is the KM-3 that had its inaugural deployment in June. This is the first time this KM-3, or Suryong, roughly translated to water dragon in English, has been deployed in the real river crossing drill.
I'm currently riding on a KM-3 amphibious bridging vehicle. This vehicle can turn into a bridge, allowing troops and other vehicles, such as tanks, to swiftly cross rivers.
The KM-3, a Korean version of Germany's M3 amphibious rig, has been developed by Hanwha Aerospace and can carry equipment weighing up to 60 tons. Not only does it reduce the installation time by up to 70%, but also operational personnel by up to 80%.
The time for setup takes much less for the existing RBS, the ribbon bridge system. It can be deployed within 10 minutes, and only 3, the 1/6 of the personnel, is required to set up. It thus enables quicker and more stable support for river crossing operations.
The Hoguk defense drill will go on until November 8th. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Yeoju.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held talks with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday to discuss post-war plans for the Gaza Strip. According to the Prime Minister's office, the Israeli leader noted that the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar will have a positive impact on the return of hostages, the achievement of war goals, and post-war plans. Netanyahu thanked the U.S. for its support against the so-called axis of resistance, while Blinken urged the Netanyahu to capitalize on the death of Sinwar and end the conflict in Gaza. The U.S. envoy also called on Israel to improve humanitarian assistance for Gaza. Now, also on Tuesday, the Israeli military confirmed the death of a top Hezbollah leader. Hashim Safieddine was reportedly killed in an airstrike earlier this month, shortly after an Israeli assault killed Hezbollah's longtime leader, Hassan Nasrallah, in September. The IMF kept its forecast for South Korea's economic growth at 2.5% for this year, while also maintaining the projection for the global economy at 3.2%. Inflation has been mostly defeated around the world, according to the IMF. Our Shin Ha-young has the details.
The International Monetary Fund on Tuesday maintained its outlook for South Korea's economic growth at 2.5% for this year. This outlook is on par with its July forecast when it raised the projection due to the country's faster-than-expected growth in the first quarter, driven by strong exports. October's projection aligns with the OECD's expectations and is lower than the anticipated growth set by the South Korean government of 2.6%. The IMF expects South Korea's economy to grow by 2.2% next year, unchanged from its July forecast, but did not provide further details on the reasons. As for other nations, the IMF raised its growth forecast for the United States by 0.2 percentage points to 2.8% this year on the back of rising consumer spending. But Japan's growth was downgraded to 0.3% from July's projection of 0.7%. The growth outlook for China was cut to 4.8% due to weakness in the real estate sector and low consumer confidence. And the Eurozone's growth forecast was lower to 0.8%. Regarding the global outlook for this year, the IMF kept it steady at 3.2% but lowered its projection for next year to 3.2%, 0.1 percentage points down from its July forecast. The IMF gave a positive assessment of the global fight against inflation.
The battle against inflation is almost won. After peaking at 9.4% year-on-year in the third quarter of 2022, we now project headline inflation will fall to 3.5% by the end of next year.
However, the IMF warned that downside risks to the global economy have increased since July. Key concerns include escalating regional conflicts, particularly in the Middle East, which could pose serious risks for commodity markets. It also noted that maintaining a tight monetary policy for too long could abruptly worsen global financial conditions. It emphasized that central banks should adopt a cautious and flexible approach to monetary policy, considering inflation, growth, and employment conditions. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Now, let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Xiang. Good morning, Xiang.
Good morning, Dami.
Let's start with the ongoing BRICS summit in Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Kazan to welcome his counterparts, isn't he?
Yes, that's right, Dami. The 16th BRICS summit is underway in the Russian Republic of Tatarstan. Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin greeted world leaders in Kazan on Tuesday, where Russia is hosting 36 countries and some 20 heads of state to encourage cooperation to challenge the Western-dominated world order. At the opening of the summit, Chinese President Xi Jinping held a sideline meeting with Putin, where he spoke of a profound friendship between Russia and China amid a chaotic international situation with profound changes unseen in a century. Putin greeted Xi by calling him a dear friend and said that Moscow and Beijing will work towards creating a fair world order. The two agreed to a no-limits partnership in 2022, just a few weeks before Russia invaded Ukraine, while they have already met twice this year. Putin also spoke with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on Tuesday, as part of some 20 bilateral meetings scheduled on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. The European Parliament voted on Tuesday to approve a plan to use frozen Russian central bank assets to provide Ukraine with a loan of up to 35 billion euros. European Union lawmakers voted by 518 in favour to 56 against, alongside 61 abstentions, to give its ally Ukraine some $38 billion in loans, a voting procedure to confirm the plan agreed by EU governments earlier in October. The G7 aims to loan up to $50 billion in support of Ukraine, with that money coming from profits generated by Russian assets frozen in the West since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Currently, some $230 billion of Russian assets remain frozen across the European Union. Now, these account for over two-thirds of the Russian central bank's foreign assets. South Korean global car maker Hyundai Motor's Indian branch set a new record as the largest IPO in India's history on Tuesday after the launch of a $3.3 billion landmark initial public offering in the country's financial capital, Mumbai. The stock was listed at 1,934 rupees, or $23 on the National Stock Exchange, slightly below the offer price of 1,960 rupees, or $23.31. The company, however, saw its stock price slip 7.2% by the end of trading on Tuesday, which valued the company at some $17.6 billion. Now, Hyundai is India's second largest car maker, with a market share of around 15%. The former CEO of fashion brand Abercrombie and Fitch, Mike Jeffries, was arrested on Tuesday and criminally charged with sex trafficking and prostitution involving dozens of men. His 61-year-old partner Matthew Smith and James Jacobson, who allegedly recruited men for the couple, were also arrested. Now, 80-year-old Jeffries, who built Abercrombie & Fitch into a popular clothing brand with sexually charged marketing, was charged with 1 count of sex trafficking and 15 counts of interstate prostitution, involving 15 unnamed victims between 2008 and 2015. The other defendants face the same charges and, if convicted, would serve a mandatory minimum 15-year prison terms with a maximum of life sentences for the sex trafficking charges and 20 years for the interstate prostitution charges.
It's Sanggang today, the last autumn seasonal term. Autumn certainly feels like it's passing much faster this year with frequent rainfall. It was a very chilly and windy morning commute for most of us, and please brace for an even chillier start for tomorrow. But temperatures would jump right back to above season norms in the afternoon. And until this morning, more rain is in the forecast for central parts of Korea, Jeollabuk-do province. The amount will not be much, but Gangwon-do province could see 5 to 20 millimeters of rainfall. Then skies will get sunnier for rain-affected regions. Meanwhile, southern provinces will be sunny for most of the day. Busan topping out at 22 degrees. Seoul and Chuncheon only make it to 16 degrees this afternoon. Now, it looks like we are going to have the chilliest morning of the season tomorrow, with a low of 7 degrees in the capital, with much brighter skies in the forecast through the weekend. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time.
How to survive in Korea. Weddings. Step 0. Attire. As a guest, dress formal to business casual. Avoid wearing all white, shorts or going topless. Step 1. Arrival time. Arrive 30 minutes prior to the wedding ceremony. Too many cars, too many halls, too many people. There are many twists and turns. Take pictures and shake hands. And write your name vertically, not horizontally, in the guest book. Step 2. Or, shibor. 50,000 won, 100,000 won, 150,000 won. Cash gifts are given in these units. Decide on the amount based on your relationship. Write your name vertically on the envelope. Step 3. Wedding etiquette. Fill up the front row. Guests have 3 duties to fulfill: clapping, cheering, and taking pictures. Step 4. Dining. Take off your jacket. This will be your seat from now on. Start with the not your everyday delicacies. Galbijjim. Yes. Bosa. Yes. Chili shrimps. Definitely yes. Kimbap. Yeah. Only if you can't live without it. No need to pile up food. You have more than one opportunity. Did you survive the wedding? Wait. Did someone catch your eye? What are you waiting for? You're looking fine today.
Hi, Chef Brian Phillips here. Today we're going to make ojingo sundae, or stuffed squid. Lemon.
It was very important for Korean people during that time to get their freedom back.
K-drama, the charm of Korea that captivates the world. Love like a K-drama. A story of us where hope and despair coexist. Fun and refreshingly satisfying. K-dramas carry warmth and move people's hearts. Meet the fascinating stories of Korea through K-dramas.
오래전 바닷길로 떠났던 당신이 세상 역경을 이기고 대한민국의 힘이 되어 하늘길로 돌아옵니다. 머나먼 타국에서 가슴 깊이 그리던 조국. 대한민국의 품으로 우리 동포들이 돌아오는 그날이 오면 배웅한 곳에서 맞이하겠습니다.
new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, October 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin and you're watching News Generation. Today we're joined by Park Ki-woon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And we're joined by a new panelist with us. He is Kang-min-ju. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello everyone. My name is Kang-min-ju. I'm a sportscaster and thank you for inviting me today. I'm looking very forward to talking to Yujin and Ki-hyun today.
We're also looking forward to talking with you as well. Once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So we're going to start with our keyword news of the day. Today's keyword is bathroom. The restroom at the Bangyang service area in Cheonan City, Chungcheongnam-do Province was recently named Korea's most beautiful public bathroom of the year by the Interior Ministry. Renovated in 2016 by a Korean interior designer, the restroom draws inspiration from the Cheonan Hyangyo Confucian School and traditional Hanok houses. Its design not only showcases Korean tradition, but also prioritizes user convenience, featuring advanced drainage systems, nursing rooms, and diaper changing stations that you're seeing right now. And local media highlighted positive reviews from international visitors. For example, one French tourist compared the restroom to facilities you'd only expect in a 5-star hotel, praising its interior elements like the indoor garden, Hanok-style doors, and traditional stone lanterns, and expressing surprise that such a high-end facility was free to use on a highway. Another Canadian visitor was similarly impressed, noting the digital display outside that shows in real time which stalls are occupied. So I want to ask our panelists, from your experience, do you find that restrooms here in Korea are more convenient and stylish when compared to those in other places?
Yeah, to be honest, I was very shocked to see this.
The photos?
These photos and type of bathroom. I've lived in the States for about like 7-8 years, and I've never seen this kind of elegant bathroom ever in public places. It seems so private to me, though. It's very public, and especially the wash basins, it's all separated by themselves. It wasn't connected to each other. And like another point that caught my eyes was the traditional but modernized Hanok interior, like Korean traditional interior. And also the lights, it was very interesting, like the harmony of like ceiling light and the just enough amount of sunlight that's receiving. It's made so luxurious and everything. So I think the light was very calm and convenient. And also, I mean, I just became ambassador of this Bangyang service area bathroom. But I should probably take a look at places where I could go driving this service area just to visit that bathroom over there. Yeah.
And I think Moon-ju showed us the perfect reaction of what this rest area is kind of aiming for. Like these high-end, eloquent bathrooms could be a way for these rest areas to actually lure in more visitors, right?
Definitely. These highway rest areas, this become like fierce competition because there are a lot of matchips at these rest areas, and people actually, look forward to stopping by to, have a meal
or a snack,
or just grab coffee. And there are different like just attractive places to take pictures, and of course the bathroom as well. I mean, you're not really going to take pictures of bathrooms, but for foreigners it could be like a new experience, and just to see how clean Korea is, and in terms of just like sanity, and like you expect public bathrooms to be a little smelly, but I haven't been to this particular rest room, but I've been to many different rest areas, and I was very surprised at how clean these toilets were, bathrooms were, and it is a pleasant experience. I mean, you don't want to really, go in there into a very smelly place, and it's not a very pleasant experience, but having these kind of modernized with a twist of a traditional Hanok twist interior, it's great. It's a great, attractive tourist attraction as well, and I expect more bathrooms to become, more attractive, but not just bathrooms, but also rest areas, because it's also another experience. Like when you actually travel abroad, a long distance by car, always stopping by the highway.
Yeah, it's like a must-visit area,
right? It's a must-visit area. It's just part of the whole experience.
So I'm sure that after watching our episode today, a lot of our international viewers who have plans to visit Korea might visit this rest area as well. And that was our keyword news for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. It's Wednesday, time for our weekly My K-Star Pick segment, where we highlight some of the hottest and most trending figures here in Korea. So Kyun, can you introduce our K-Star for the week?
Yes, for this week's K-Star, it's our one and only world-class living legend, Son Heung-min, better known as Sonny in Europe. So to give more information about Sonny, let's take a look at the screen. Born on July 8, 1992, now 32 years old. He grew up in Chuncheon, Gangwon-do province, which is approximately an hour-and-a-half drive from Seoul, east of Seoul. And he grew up learning soccer with his older brother. His father, who is also an ex-professional soccer player, taught both his sons at a very young age. He stands at 183 centimeters, the same height as myself actually, and weighs 76 kilograms, much lighter than me. He's currently playing in the English Premier League for Tottenham Hotspur, joining in 2015. Son made his debut in the German Bundesliga, joining Hamburg SV back in 2010 when he was only 18 years of age. His MBTI, for those who are interested, Eugene, is ESFJ. Now, what does that mean, ESFJ?
ESFJ means that you're very caring, you're very social, and that person is a very community-minded people.
Maybe I should become ESFJ as well.
Maybe you should. You should not only follow his height, but also his MBTI
and
as well.
And his weight, perhaps, yeah.
Okay, his weight as well. Right, so Kyun just gave us a run-through of who Sonny is. And here in Korea, Son Heung-min is not just a football star. He is more of a cultural icon. He's become one over the years. So Moonju, tell us just how popular Sonny has become here in the country.
Yeah, I mean, well, could we even say more about how popular Sonny is, at least in this country?
His name says it all, right?
Yeah, it's Son Heung-min, right? But like, he has always been an absolute #1 sports star here. And Hanguk Gallup, a research agency in South Korea this spring, 49% of respondents chose Son Heung-min as their favorite sports star. So the reason why this result is even more remarkable is because the question included a condition saying regardless of ages, genders, and like they could, regardless of their like whether they're alive or not. So it was all like non-conditional question, and it didn't narrow it down to soccer players or anything. So this means of all-time sports star that we have here in South Korea, Sonny was an absolute #1. And this also stands out if we compare the number with those following zone. Lee Gang-in, standing second on the list, was chosen by 7% of respondents. And then he's followed by Lee Hyun-jin, 6%, and Kim Yeona with 5%. So they are all top stars in South Korea, but Sonny, I think we could say he's a star of all stars.
And for our viewers' information, Ryu Hyun-jin is a Korean baseball player, and Kim Yeona is a former figure skater, a Olympic gold and silver medalist as well. So the stat that Moonju mentioned just show how Son Heung-min is currently the absolute all-time favorite star here in Korea. So now let's hear from the younger generation on what they think about Son Heung-min. We went to Gangnam Station in Seoul to ask young people their views.
한국의 축구라고 부를 만큼 이제 많이 유명한 선수라 생각합니다. 그 손흥민 선수가 이제 축구 선수가 되는 과정이 이제 너무나도 혹독하고 힘들었는데 그거를 이겨내고 축구 선수가 된다는 게 너무 제 마음에 와닿아가지고 너무 제 우상이기도 하고 그래가지고 대한민국의 영웅이라고 생각하죠.
현 시점에선 대한민국을 대표하는 운동선수라고 생각이 듭니다.
외국에 나갔을 때도 외국인들이랑 제가 한국에서 왔다고 얘기를 하면 다들 뭐 소니 막 이러면서 얘기를 하는 경우가 많더라고요. 그래가지고 손흥민이란 선수가 진짜 우리나라에서만 유명한 게 아니라 세계적으로 유명한 선수라는 거를 실감할 수 있었던 것 같습니다.
Right, so some of the interviewees that we met said Son Heung-min is synonymous with Korean football. He is a hero of South Korea, and he is kind of like the face of Korean sports as of now. So for those who are interested and want to find out more about Son Heung-min, we prepared 3 keywords that we think best introduce or describe Son Heung-min. So our first keyword of Son Heung-min is living legend. So Kyun, could you please tell us more about that?
Yes, just by listening to the interviews of young citizens and how they perceive him, it's safe to say he is a living legend and a cultural icon going beyond a famous soccer player. So I'm just going to list some of the key achievements he has made, and the statistics really speak for themselves. So in the 21-22 season, he won Premier League Golden Boot Award, scoring 23 goals alongside Mohamed Salah, becoming the first ever Asian player to win it. While at Tottenham, Son became the top Asian goal scorer in both the Premier League and Champions League history, surpassing Cha Bong-gun, another living legend here in Korea. For those who may not be familiar with the Premier League, it is the highest level of the English football system by far, and the most popular and watched professional league in the world. And the UEFA Champions League, abbreviated as UCL, is an annual competition contested by top division European clubs. It is one of the most prestigious football tournaments in the world, and every European team's dream to lift the winning trophy. So back in April 2023, he became the first Asian player to score 100 Premier League goals. He is also the club's 5th highest goal scorer and all-time leader in assists. And after becoming a full international since 2010, Son has made 129 appearances and scored 49 goals. And this record is still going. And I really look forward to seeing him just becoming #1 in all the different areas of making the appearances and scoring goals, and most number of appearances in World Cup as well.
Right, so he's already made so many impressive achievements. He is making his mark and breaking records not only on the Korean national team, but also in one of the most celebrated football leagues in the world. So no wonder he is called a living legend. And our second keyword to describe Son Heung-min is Chuncheon. So Moonju, could you elaborate more?
Yeah, absolutely. So Son Heung-min was born and raised in Chuncheon. So it is his hometown for both birth and his soccer career. Unlike other soccer players that we have, like elite players, they normally progress by like elite course.
And they study overseas or train overseas at a young age.
Yeah, exactly. But he spent most of his academic years at Chuncheon and Wonju until he moved to Seoul to join the youth team operated by FC Seoul, one of the prominent South Korean professional soccer teams. And I think this relates at least to somewhat why Sonny became a cultural icon, as we talked about earlier. And he became a global superstar, writing a rags to riches story. Indeed, Chuncheon was considered a wasteland or barren regarding soccer, and his mere motivation for starting soccer was excitement because it was fun. And it's a city that is fundamental for his soccer career, as I just explained a bit. And he mastered his skills here in Chuncheon with his father, practicing 3 to 4 hours every day after school. And so-called Son Heung-min Jeon that we all know, like all Premier League fans know, is created from like practice with his dad here at Chuncheon. So I think this is a very important place in Son Heung-min's life. So we could definitely say Chuncheon is his second keyword here today.
Right, no wonder he's called the son of Chuncheon, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is why he's son of Chuncheon.
Right, Chuncheon의 아들, which is in Korean.
Yeah.
And our last keyword, we cannot leave out this word to describe Son Heung-min, and that is captain.
Yeah, he is Captain Sonny. But just to add on to what Moonju said, you know, when I heard about Chuncheon, the only thing that popped up was 닭갈비.
What is it?
Sonny became famous, but now it's like hometown of Sonny when you talk about Chuncheon. So anyway, there's 닭갈비 and hometown
the
of Sonny.
stir-fried chicken dish, right?
Exactly. Anyway, so going back to the third keyword, captain. So more people call him Captain Sonny now, as he's a captain for both the Korean national team and Tottenham Hotspur. So Sonny took on the captain's band for the national team from 2018 and looks to lead his team into the 2026 World Cup. Tottenham decided to give Sonny the same role from 23-24 season and has shown tremendous leadership skills since. So with his own style of friendliness and ability to get along with all team members, including the coach and staff, he's loved by almost everyone and respected by both young and older players. And, you know, it's not easy to become a captain and to become a leader, but he shows it in every aspect, like even outside the field when he signs autographs, he waves at his fans, you know, he's always willing to take pictures with them. Whereas like a lot of elite, like top world-class players, they're really busy and they have a lot of security around them, and they're busy just going in and out of the stadium. But Sonny always makes time for his fans, and that's why I think fans love him on a different level.
Right, and I also want to add that Sonny has become the very first Asian to become the captain of the Tottenham Hotspur, so that's another big record that we must emphasize when introducing Son Heung-min. And one thing that's also caught the public's attention over the years is how much Sonny's interview skills have improved. So to help you see the change, we've prepared two clips, one from when Son Heung-min was 18 years old and one from earlier this year in 2024.
일단 그렇게 박지성 형이나 뭐 박주영 선수 뭐 그런 형들을 보고 같이 운동할 수 있다면 저에겐 좀 큰 영광이고 행복이죠.
가장 중요한 건 저희가 어떤 축구를 하고 싶은지 또 어떤 축구를 해야 하는지에 대해서 조금 더 구체적인 생각을 가지고 앞으로 나아가면 정말 좋을 것 같고.
Right, so I'm sure our viewers through the videos noticed how much his communication style has grown over the years. Now, I think that what we could also see from this video is what makes Sonny so popular worldwide. Not just his football skills, but it's also his personality, right?
Yeah, as you guys have just seen from videos, his interview skill is like almost perfect.
Right.
I think he's doing interviewing better than I am.
People are always surprised by the remarks.
Yeah, like he knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
So anyways, if we take a close look at his interviews, he's always humble and he always puts his teammates before him. So this is clearly shown in both the national team and also in Tottenham's interview. So it became an issue of the day in England, actually, when Sonny put the mic down so politely with two hands. And people were saying Sonny is even kind and even nice to Mike.
Right.
It's so adorable, right? And another episode that we could bring about is when there was a 2022 Qatar World Cup.
Oh, I remember that World Cup.
Just a few weeks before the World Cup, Sonny was injured and he had to receive a surgery. And it was a definitely red light for both Sonny and the our national team. And still, what the team did was adding a reserve player named Oh Hyun-gyu, right? So he was 27th player and the entry only could include 26 players. So basically, Oh Hyun-gyu was just there for replacing Sonny if he could not play at all in the World Cup. But during and after the World Cup, as we all know, Sonny played very well.
With the mask, black mask.
Yeah, with the mask, very well. And so he showed his great appreciation to like Oh Hyun-gyu for being with the team and becoming a wonderful training partner.
Right.
Like spreading all his positivity, though he could not play at all. So I think these interviews were so thoughtful and so like touching. I was touched by his interview. So like I think this clearly shows how like Sonny's personality is so well designed. I think this is kind of like wordy, but still, his personality and his humbleness, maybe,
I think that contributes to a bigger fan base being built towards Son Heung-min, not only here in Korea, but in other parts of the world as well. So once again, from his incredible football skills to his humble and friendly personality, we've taken a closer look at what makes Son Heung-min so appealing. So now let's once again hear from some young fans about what they love most about Sonny.
아무래도 슛이 아닐까. 네. 손흥민 선수 훈련 중에 슛하는 걸 봤는데 슛을 거의 1000번 넘게 차더라고요. 그것 때문에 슛이 장점이라고 생각합니다. 손흥민 선수는 뭐 캡틴 달 만한 자격이 충분히 있다고 생각합니다.
아직 잘 뛰고 계시기 때문에 앞으로도 좋은 성적 거둬주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
국가대표로 나왔을 때도 항상 주장을 많이 맡으시면서 이게 축구라는 것 자체가 팀전이다 보니까 그 팀워크가 되게 중요한데 이제 손흥민 선수가 주장으로 하면서 협업을 많이 할 수 있고 이제 딱 뭔가 카리스마 있게 잘 전개할 수 있게 도와주는 것 같아서 그런 면에서도 되게 좋은 리더라는 생각도 드는 것 같습니다.
제가 축구 쪽을 잘 아는 건 아니지만 아버지께서 가끔씩 말씀을 하셨었는데 보면은 되게 외국에서 생활하시는 게 어려움이 많으실 때도 불구하고 굉장히 간결한 정확한 언어로 의사 표현을 잘 하시고 그럼에도 계속 예의를 잘 갖춰서 얘기한다라고 칭찬했던 게 기억이 나서 그런 부분에서 되게 탁월한 리더이자 운동선수인 것 같습니다.
Right, so we once again listened to what young fans love most about Son Heung-min. Now we're going to wrap up today's episode by saying something, our message that we'd like to individually say to Son Heung-min. Well, I would personally like to say to Son Heung-min, welcome back, because the reason why we prepared an episode on Son Heung-min today is because he recently made a comeback.
He did.
And he actually scored during the game with West Ham, as far as I remember.
Yep.
Right, and a lot of fans, especially domestic football fans here in Korea, were very disappointed and they were heartbroken when they heard that Son Heung-min was injured because he missed out previous national team matches. So I would like to say to Son Heung-min, welcome back and look forward to all the amazing records and achievements that you'll make throughout your career. So I'm gonna toss the mic to you, Kyun.
Sonny, I love you. I want your autograph. Definitely, I really hope to see him one day in front of my eyes, whether he's playing for Tottenham or for the national soccer team. He is definitely at his peak of his career, or maybe a bit past his peak, but he's still playing brilliantly, and he's so respected, not for his just skills on the field, but outside the pitch. And I would like to continue just seeing him, playing for any clubs. But K-League is also a huge, it's growing market here in Korea, K-League. I recently saw a charity match between K-League and Im Young-un team, and I saw so many fans come to the stadium, and I wondered, hey, there was Ki Sung-young as well, who also played in English Premier League, and he's also a legend as well in Korean football. And seeing him come back to K-League, play for Seoul FC, I would also like to see Sonny, after he considers retiring and coming back to K-League, maybe playing for Gangwon FC or where Kuncheon is, and just seeing him just elevate Korean football to another level. And hopefully he doesn't get injured and just plays well until the 2026 World Cup, and hopefully leads his team to the round of 16s, or even past that, the quarterfinals.
Fingers crossed. Now, what about you, Moonju?
Yeah, I personally have a hope for him. Like, I think he's scoring like 49 goals, right?
Right.
If he scored 10 more goals as a national team squad, he will be scoring the most goals in the South Korean national team. So I really want to see him achieving that goal one day. And also, I've never seen him before, and I was so jealous when my parents, my father and my younger sister, went to England and they saw
his match in person.
200th goal and as an international player. And I was so jealous, and they bought me a jersey of Son Heung-min. I want to buy it myself, and I want to meet you someday. And I really, I will be looking forward for your, I don't know, 300th goal maybe in the Premier League. Yeah, so love you.
Right, so once again, fingers crossed. Now that's all we have for News Done today, but we'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Park Kyun.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Kang Moon-ju.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2024 is